You got to be willing to watch your account drop and drop and drop and drop. Most people don't want to do that.
You know, pre-market's the best time to get your price and your execution. It's the most reliable time of the trading hours. That was a joke. Okay, here's the phase 3 publication. It's a preprint. Of course, they had the CEO and as an author, which is this guy's still proud of getting his name on a scientific paper. Sad. All right. Gonna read it in my traditional fashion for now. Looks like they had somebody called QNAPs help them out. I'm curious who that is. My desk is as crowded as it gets. Gotta move some stuff here. How much more Rigetti can I short? I'm sure everyone sees the 𝗕𝗓𝗏 failed their trial. That stock is down 81%. So we know how that story ended. Restores cellular homeostasis. Wow, that is a claim. Oh my God, who wrote this? Elderly autoimmune systems? They really need a writer. Whoever's writing this is just terrible at English. And I'm not exactly Mr. Hemingway. Oh, they didn't do a US? What? They didn't do a site in the US? That's why they're not filing in the US. They didn't even do the trial in the US. How could they file in the US? Yeah, I feel terrible about these attacks. Remember when I kept asking, why can't you guys file for FDA approval if it's so good? People are like, you should check out the stock, Martin. They had good Alzheimer's results. Great, well, file with the FDA if so. They did the study in Australia, which doesn't count as a country as far as clinical trials are concerned. UK, Canada, Germany, Netherlands, which do count, but that's enough to get European approval. Why can't they? Do they not have an IND in the US? Do they not have an IND in the US? There's a weird thing about Australian clinical trials that you would only know if you were in doing clinical trials. It's a half a joke, but it's true. Okay, well, that's something.
Order cancelled.
That is something we learned today. 52 sites. Most of the sites were in Australia. Off the rip, you can't trust it. It says 509 or 508. Keep playing with 1 or 2 patients. Oh man, 5 months to database lock? Come on. 5 months? Even 𝗂𝗏 didn't need 2 months. 5 months to database lock? You gotta make sure the data's good. Jesus Christ. Anyone else in superposition right now? Suspended in superposition? Did you see Grimes did like a quantum set? Quantum's so hot right now. Grimes did a whole thing at the Sphere. It looked pretty dope. But it involved a lot of quantum too. Yeah, I miss NFTs. I have more Rigetti than I have ever had, and I actually have more INQ than I've ever had too. I'm over 100,000 each. So that's exciting. SLS is coming out soon. I have to make sure we get that. I hope somebody got 𝗕𝗓𝗏. It's just so weirdly written. It said the single blarcamacine group versus placebo will be the primary analysis. It should say was the primary analysis. So cringe. The 2 separated arms versus placebo provide the support evidence. I understand what they're saying. SLS is a short, I think. Yeah, listen, I mean, you have to protect yourself at all times. That's the #1 rule of this game. Live to play another day. I don't think it makes sense to have a beta position. So if you're all long or all short, that probably doesn't work. Find some stocks you'd be comfortable being long even in a disastrous environment, and then find some stocks you'd be comfortable being short even in a great environment, and you should have yourself a nice portfolio, right? My company did make software, so we don't trade, and but I am going to do some cool stuff on show you guys some high frequency trading stuff and enable that in Godel at some point, so you guys can get a taste of quantitative investing. All right, Kitty, that's enough. That's enough. AI is coming too, Ian. I was working on it late last night. Okay, the reduction in decline of the ability to perform daily activities assessed. No, I think ARB is great, man. I mean, there are some obstacles. There's always obstacles in quantitative investing. Other people want free money too. You know, you got to be a good engineer. Okay, so the ADCS ADL was the primary, co-primary. They say that in the paper. The secondary outcome was a reduction in cognitive and functional decline assessed from baseline over 48 weeks using CDR sum of boxes. There was also CGI. Okay. Oh, they had to combine doses because the 30 mg missed. It's so cringe. They not even give you the ADCSL data? ADCS-ADL failed. Okay, so you have a co-primary endpoint and one of them failed. That means the trial failed. That's really all there is to that. Ooh, IonQ dropping it around 40 now. The market is open. IonQ 39. I mean, what's funny about Anavex is if they just said, hey, we're going to do a new huge phase 3, 800 patients, that might actually, I mean, that might be positive. It's just this insistence on sticking to this failed trial, trying to get approval only in Europe. It's like, what? Just feel like we failed by a very small amount. We're going to try again. Nothing wrong with that. There's a couple of drugs that did that. I mean, you're talking 1 or 2 patients difference here. Now, the ADCS-ADL makes you wonder. Australia is a good place to do clinical trials in early clinical trials. So like they have very lax procedures, which is great if you're trying to rush into the clinic. It's a fantastic place to just do a human phase 1 first in human. A lot of drug companies go out there to do a quick phase 1. But yeah, I don't know that this paper is good. This paper kind of shows that the drug didn't work. All right, IonQ almost 38. Breaking down before our eyes here. 𝗕𝗲𝗏𝗃𝗏 not exactly doing great itself. I'm gonna short some Anavex here. What's really funny is they say that the study drug compliance was high, but then they also said that the 30 mg and 50 mg had the same exposure. Which seems hard to do if the study compliance is high. Even CDR sum of boxes failed if you swapped it out. Yeesh. How do you fail so bad on one but not the other? Who wrote this? This reads like their press release. The co-primary outcome was met under the multiplicity control rule. What multiplicity control rule? Is it pre-specified? I like it. They use this language in the press release and everywhere else. And I'm not sure what it means. Under the multiplicity control rule. I know a lot of statistics. What rule? Is this real? Is somebody pranking me? Is somebody pranking me? Shorting won't 10x your portfolio? Hate to tell you this, buddy. But it 10x my portfolio. If you had good phase 3 Alzheimer's results, you publish it in New England or JAMA, Lancet. I've never, ever seen something like this in a it's just colloquial. You don't talk like this this isn't the right voice. Met the primary endpoint. There were first of all, it was multiple primary endpoints. It's not the job of the authors to say, considered a win. Like, what? I want to email some of these authors. Why would you put your name on this? I've been focused on finding biotechs to short for about 2 decades. Wait, the corresponding author is a guy in Phoenix? There were no US study sites. He's a DSMB member? Consider it a win, mate. How do I interpret this result? Consider it a win, mate. Just get a medical. I guess if they got a real medical writer, they for their press releases or for their papers, it would just be too embarrassingly bad. So like, CEO is like, no, let me write that. Oh, here's the supplementary materials. What I was looking for. Yo, this is a different looking chart. Hold up. Hey, hold up. Hey. Hold up. It just like kind of, whoa, it is kind of different. That is 50 mgs. I mean, there's basically no different from placebo for the first 36 weeks and all of a sudden magically starts working at 48. And this is 30 mgs. Even worse. Everything magically starts working at 48 for some reason. It's not really how medicine works, but no, it's not better than the mAbs. And that's not really the concern here. Nobody cares about the mAbs. We're trying to figure out if this drug works or not. The mAbs separate right away. Consider it a win.
The AVXL, it doesn't have any data coming out ever again. All their data's out. Did they really not run a US study site? 𝗟𝗂𝗅 is an author on this. Oh, they're paying this guy on the RET study. This guy's got stock in 𝗓𝗏, and he's consulted for Anavex, basically a employee. Numerically superior clinical efficacy to approved therapies. The study has some limitations, you think? Yeah, I imagine without an LOCF analysis, the way they handle dropouts in the study is really bizarre. They had a lot of dropouts relative to the placebo group. They didn't handle the missing data correctly. So they basically said they assumed missing data was random, but the problem is all the missing data comes from the drug side, not placebo. So you're biasing the drug side quite a bit. Because if you throw out the data of the people who discontinued the drug, you're basically just saying NAGTRAB's in the hunt for all the placebos. He wants to buy out all placebo. Whoever has the 𝗂𝗂𝗍𝗂𝗏 trait on is no way. Joe Springer deleted his YouTube. It's over. Is he dead? I'm still part of his community. Yeah, he just renamed it. It's the 𝗕𝗏𝗄𝗏 Sciences channel. Just archive it, man. This last video was...
There is so much to get caught up on with 𝗕𝗏𝗄𝗏 Sciences. It is time.
The problem with shorting is, you know, the people you're betting against are very incentivized to keep things going and to try to maneuver and, you know, get their promoted situation. They're way more incentivized than you are. But, you know, I flip the script on that sometimes, you know. You can go out and click on things. That's what we do here. So there's nothing wrong with that. Buffett once, I'm paraphrasing Buffett, by the way. That's where this quote came from. He told somebody, I forgot who it was, some big shot. He said, I don't short because the other side is more motivated to keep up their scam than I am to point it out. And that reminds me of that Eminem lyric where he says, Will Smith doesn't have to curse to sell records. Well, I do. And it turns out that Eminem did sell more records than Will Smith. Rigetti, 10% on nothing? Meanwhile, IonQ down? It's time for the State of the Sava address. Yeah, I'm not worried about the side effects. I'm more worried about the effect they had on efficacy analysis. How come they never did a US study site? Who develops a drug and doesn't get an IND? And why isn't the FDA letting them have an IND? Placebos can give you side effects. Well, by definition they can't, but the point is that you can have no efficacy and still have side effects. But you're right, if it's a true inert substance, there should be no side effects and no efficacy. Oh, 𝗏𝗏 is good. Yeah, I don't like nocebo. I mean, if you can't beat a placebo, you don't deserve to be FDA approved. There's a lot of good biotech investors out there. Just look at the returns. That's the main goal. I didn't see any of this in the supplemental table. There was no supplemental table 7. In a clinical trial, that's a really good question, actually. You have to do something called clinical equipoise, also kind of basically known as, you know, medical ethics. So when you do a clinical trial, you don't randomize to placebo if there is an active control that you can replace it with. Now, it depends on what you're trying to prove as a company. If you're trying to prove your drug's better than another drug, you compare it to another drug. Now, if there's a situation where there's a highly effective medicine available and you want to exclude that from your trial completely, that's sort of ethically fraught or fraught with ethical problems, because you have to think about denying access of that medicine to people. You know, that's a really tough thing to do. So one thing you could do to satisfy that is you do a background medication where all patients take it. So you can still compare against placebo, but you're not comparing head-to-head against that drug. Does that make sense? Yeah, I mean, look, Ken, I mean, just as long as you don't have too much beta exposure, that stuff shouldn't matter too much. But, you know, in general, I'm finding a lot better shorts than longs. AI is not going to take drug developers' jobs soon, I don't think. Probably help more than anything, but who knows? You could do titration before the trial begins. It's so weird. Because if you could handle the titration, you're sort of biasing people who are going to do better, I think.
Here it says, even when early termination patients were excluded, placebo group performed better. Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is the kind of key passage, I think. And they, in the supplemental material, they addressed this, but they would have missed their primary endpoint but for this. So I'm kind of curious if that's the real issue here. The lady doth protest too much, in other words. Oh, Will, good question. I'm not sure what would surprise me. Should we read the 𝗏𝗏 thing? Where do I find it? Yeah, at this rate, wars might be starting soon, right? Yeah, but where do I find it? On the website or on? Yeah, eventually the EMA will turn them away, I think. Hindenburg Research. It's a lot of stock, 3.6 billion. Another 2 billion, nice. They're recognizing income from loan sales. I think everybody knew this thing was coming. They're covering on the news. Oh, this is the old Einhorn short Ally Financial. Oh, Cerberus. Well, Cerberus is third party enough. That's not that crazy. Oh, he's yeah. Okay. It's still if Cerberus is a big fund. I mean, I don't see a problem if Cerberus is backstopping or buying Carvana loans. I don't see that being a huge problem. Okay, yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot more to add on AVXL, but I think the tipping point analysis is actually quite scary. All right, let's look at MGTX. This is Mira GTX. AVXL is scam, man. It's like Carvana, but biotech. Do I not have an MGTX model? Okay. $6.29. I don't know Moonlake too well. All right, $6, 78 million shares, 492 million EV, market cap, 122 million cash. Whoa, they have a huge amount of property. Got their own plant, I'm guessing, and they do have debt. A lot of money has gone into this company. More money than has come out. When did they get into GLP? Thought these guys were gene therapy. AVXL will go drop this year at some point. Don't know when. I think this is an obesity disease, some weird genetic obesity, 𝗏𝗏𝗘𝗏. Haven't looked at it in a long time. I'm pretty sure it's this bizarre obesity. I don't know if that's a great idea. The problem with gene therapy is you can't take it out because it's in your genes. Now they're saying they have this ribose switch, so I guess they can give it with maybe some kind of trigger that like triggers the gene to express or something. Seems a little shaky work. I don't know. The other GLP companies aren't exactly pumping. VKTX has obviously been a disaster. Yeah, I didn't think much of the Carvana report. I don't know if there'll be an offering for AVXL, but I would think IonQ and Rigetti would do offerings. Certainly I would if I was in their shoes. I don't know if they would benefit the short, they would benefit the company for sure. If you're a company, you don't really care about your stock price. You want the cash. You don't have to sell a lot of shares, but you would sell a couple million shares. Take advantage of the cash in case there's a recession or something like that. You can. Yeah, I know the Carvana guy went to jail. I think he's the richest guy who's ever been to prison, or one of them at least. Binance. He set the record. AVXL, it's hard to know what the timing is. Do some kind of statistical review. I'm curious why the FDA never gave them an IND, or at least they never did any US clinical trial sites. That's very, very suspicious to me. QUPT is a good short too. They're all good shorts. I don't think the fundamentals matter that much, to be honest. This is like a money supply thing and a momentum thing. Honestly, I think Darren said it best when IonQ is the best short because it's such a big market cap that institutions can short it and it's harder to sort of get it up, so to speak. Pause. TRDL. Cardiol Therapeutics. 100 million market cap. Eesh, hard to short this 100. I think Galt, I was making an exception for Galt at 150. 100 million market cap's awfully tough to short. I'm sure Lays is a good short. I'm just up to my ears in quantum. Still in progress. Farcoin is the tell for all these assets. Farcoin is up, all these things will be up. Farcoin has a 1.4 billion market cap. You got to be willing to watch your account drop and drop and drop and drop. Most people don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. A lot of people want me to look at LUNR. Let's take a look. LUNR.
I cover if there's like revenue growth or like something like that that changes in the story. The key is not to short too much. That's really the key, is having a lot of positions, not getting too burned. But if you want YOLO gains, you're gonna have to go through some YOLO losses sometimes. That's the nature of YOLO, right? You just try to make sure you don't get blown out, but there should be a price where you're also willing to get blown out. I mean, at $100, now you should be able to hedge that.